Um, right. So you got an early. I mean, you're pretty much using the sunlight, right, to maximize your day's activity. But once that goes down, and you take your evening shower, and you had your supper and things like that. One of the big events was just sitting around and hearing stories from your aunts and your uncles and grandparents,
Mm.
if you're fortunate enough to be
Right.
around them, and you're singing songs and you're telling stories, and everybody up the river was pretty religious, so a lot of it would be, even if you're singing songs and things like that, it'd be a lot around the religious songs and things like that. But that's where you would hear the talents of your family, right? When you hear them singing and things like this, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
to this
Right.
day, we still tease one of my aunts has to, not tease, but always remember those days when you sit around and you hear her voice and singing and things like that. So
Right. Right. My name is Son Dianansi, aka the When Last Man, and you have just entered the Georgetown Tea House. Welcome.
Who were the Lindies, Grimmons, Benders, Patois, and Leps? And how do they connect us to Guyana's legacy and to that of other Guyanese families?
So, what is a cousin? What is a first cousin? Second cousin? What is a first cousin once removed? Today, in episode 2 of MORTY Lindie's Guyana story, we want to pause a little to see if we can begin to define what a cousin is. Cousins tend to make up a big part of the family tree. All right? So we're going to get into that. Let's first hear from Morty himself.
the way to, if someone say, well, this is your first cousin,
Mm.
right? Generally, what you do is, who is your it goes from your common ancestor, right? So, for instance, let's say you are my first cousin.
Mhm.
It would be number one. It'd be your common ancestor would be your grandparents, right? You have the same grandparents,
Right.
so that's number one generally. If you then say, okay, you are my second cousin, then you go one step up, right? So it's your great grandparents, right? So it's always one up, and then you sort of move across.
You ever been introduced to someone with the words, this is family, this is your cousin, and you blink a little because you already know your uncle's children, you already know your aunt's children. So, cousin, but how? Let's look at your cousin connections using your mother's side of the family. Note, in place of the terms great grandparent and great great grandparent, we will mostly use second grandparent and third grandparent, etc. In these early episodes, we may occasionally include the term great for clarification. Your first cousin. Your mother, Linda, has a sister named Trisha, whom you refer to as Aunt Trisha. Aunt Trisha has a daughter named Mandy. Mandy is your first cousin because you share the same grandparents, Linda's and Trisha's parents. First cousin once removed. Let's say Mandy, your first cousin, has a son named Terence. Terence would be your first cousin once removed. The term once removed indicates that you two are from different generations, in this case, one generation apart. Second cousin. Your mother's mother, Miss Brenda, has a sister named Miss Margaret. Miss Margaret has a daughter named Carol, and Carol has a son named Brandon. Brandon is your second cousin. You and Brandon share the same second grandparents or great grandparents, but not the same grandparents. Carol, your mother's first cousin, is your first cousin once removed. Brandon, your second cousin, is your mother's first cousin once removed.
If for instance, with Cosmeta is my second cousin on my dad's side, right? So that means my dad and her dad are first cousin, right? Meaning that they have the same grandparents, right? And so that makes it that's what make it second. So Cosmet and I would have the same great grandparent.
Well, we would encourage that you grab your pen and paper and start mapping out your cousin connections. This will be all for now. We want to thank you for being here at the Georgetown Tea House. Thank you for listening, and do spread the word, do like, do share, do comment. All right? And we'll see you next time.